Good evening. I'm very happy to participate to this conclave on M&A. I'm Philipe Bouchet. Unfortunately, I cannot join you physically today, but I wanted to have this recording to make some lessons about what 2022 was and what 2023 could be in terms of M&A. My name, once again, is Philipe Bouchet. I've been organizing M&As for a number of years. I'm currently managing a company in France, and I'm calling from Tokyo. And I'm saying that because one of the opportunity in 2023 would be probably to reinforce international mergers or opportunities outbound and inbounds with countries like India and many others. So let's talk about 2022. 2022 was slow in terms of M&A globally, where a number of uncertainties have impacted the morale of managements and decision makers in the world in terms of M&A. Among them were, of course, the general situation and geopolitical conflicts in the world, especially the Ukrainian conflict, but also a number of economical topics like the volatility, the rising interest rates, impacting a lot the way the deals could be structured, rising interest rates, together with an escalating inflation that was not entirely expected at the beginning of the year. So all this created an uncertainty, a confidence from the managers that is one of the key drivers for triggering M&As, and together with two other drivers, one, the ability to modelize the future and just project yourself into a new entity that comprises and integrates the mergers of two previous entities. So the results of the M&A is a little bit more difficult today to modelize, at least in the short terms, and to see what kind of short-term returns could be made. The other difficulty is to financing the deal with higher interest rates. One has to be a little bit more conscious on how to structure its deal. Now, that's been for 2022. And there are a number of things that will happen in 2023 that we can already anticipate. Some other that obviously we cannot. One thing is about seeing more opportunities coming, probably in 2023, related to an increase of distressed companies either selling the company or selling part of the company, which is obviously something that will happen in 2023. Maybe opportunities in Europe, where the situation at the east of Europe is quite impacting the activity. The price of energy, in particular, had been a tremendous pressure on the activity in France in some industrial sectors, like glass or aluminium industry. Very strong. Now, the second thing would be probably divestment of companies that want to focus on their core business and take the opportunity or under the pressure, have a better strategy in getting out of some of their activities that are not core, and that either are impacted by the crisis or are not impacted by the crisis and would be a good deal for selling and to keep the core business in a good situation. On the other hand, that's our two positive aspects. On the other hand, the difficulty for companies to sell some of their stocks and activity when the stocks are low in Europe or in the US might have an impact on the capability for the appetite for companies to sell some of their activity or selling their companies. They might be reluctant to do it right now and prefer waiting a little bit into going into accepting a deal with an acquirer in 2023. The second thing that we can reasonably anticipated that the cost of acquisitions and the higher rates will probably remain in 2023. And together with the difficulty of modelizing, will still remain a point of uncertainty on the volumes of M&A in 2023. But all this together gives a picture of the year to come that might increase not the quantity, but probably the quality of the M&As in the year. And targets or business targeting would be probably much more qualitative than they were before. That's an important thing that probably we'll see in 2023. And this impacts lots, of course, in the time of uncertainty where the companies are going in terms of strategy. So strategy will probably be the key word in 2023. I was saying that modelization will still remain to be a part of uncertainty in 2023, how to project your company in 6 months' time, 1 year time. It probably will be a little bit less difficult in 2022 because the different issues in the international turmoil, the interest rates, the energy prices in Europe, that really took the market and the companies by surprise. Nobody would expect that the Ukrainian crisis would last 1 year. Nobody would have expected the energy prices to multiply by a number of digits in certain countries in Europe. And certainly there were a numbers of indicators or analysts expecting the inflation just to disappear after 6 months. It didn't happen. But the markets have been taking slowly that into consideration. And the financials and M&A teams of companies have already started to be a little bit more used of living in this world of uncertainties and getting ready, if necessary, or if there are opportunities for M&As. Having said that, they will obviously use a little bit more of pressure on the M&A teams or the different departments that would like to have an external growth to ask them and challenge a little bit more their strategic intent. The short-term returns is not something that is likely to drive the operations, but the strategic intents will still remain. And some global or game changers opportunities might appear for companies as companies that would have appeared like 3 years ago as very strong after the cumulative crisis that we had since 2019 might not be as strong as they would have expected to be 3 years ago and might be ready to divest parts of their activity or resell them. The acquirers will probably be more than ever people that have a clear strategic intent or clear interest, long-term or at least medium-term interest in doing this acquisition. This means for us, practitioner of the M&A or parts of M&A teams in the companies, something very important. It means that we need to focus more on how this merger will create value, not only increasing the size of the activity or of the business or getting rid of a competitor or entering into a market, but we should question much more of why we are doing that. Why is this new market important for us? Why is these parts, this technology, for instance, that we would acquire, a strategic acquisition, how we do that, and how we integrate so that the value that is created is really effectively appearing and transformed into new value for the company when the merger takes place. That's something that is extremely important, linking completely the process from a strategic intent analysis to the execution and the materialization of this strategic intent and the opportunity that the company is acquiring, is targeting in the process of this acquisition. we can already expect that a number of very dynamic markets will still continue to progress in terms of M&A, especially in high-tech industry, in software, where or logistics, where the recent crisis have been developing the activity, and where more than ever the new technologies, the IT software are still continuing to grow. So it will be more a matter of surviving for companies to continue to grow and continuing into M&A into that space. In some other areas, we could see opportunities. I'm thinking of geographical opportunities, for instance, in Europe for non-European companies that take this opportunity to enter this market. A number of companies are under pressure in Europe with the energy crisis, with the geopolitical crisis, and might be interested to have investors from other parts of the world that are differently impacted to enter into their capital or work together in financing the future of the company. So this could be new investments or new investors from other parts of the world, or full M&A or acquisition deal for the more stressed companies. It's something that will be probably very interesting too, where we could see, and we can see that overall this crisis is accelerating the new world, a new relationship with different parts of the world. We could see what with the COVID crisis, the solutions were not exactly the same everywhere in the world. There were really different impacts on the companies, on the and the industry, on the rest of the economy. And we could see that this is something shaping a different world for in this multilateralism and globalization. It's probably a different globalization that is starting, especially the weight of Asia is obviously growing and giving opportunities for Asian companies to have a different role in the rest of the world, as well as seeing the European or American companies seeing differently their roles in countries in Asia. This means also that in the merger and the process of executing the merger, the transnationals and cross-cultural parts of the merger will be extremely important. And once again, it's a question of execution and question of discipline into the execution, making sure that those aspects are also integrated in the process. Things that are extremely important in getting the process ready is preparation, having tools, and making sure that you are able to cover all the aspects of a merger. The times are not really permissive for companies that are not prepared into covering not only the financial aspects, but the whole scopes and the different type of the requirements an M&A and merger requires. What will you do in terms of human resources? What will you do in terms of technology, acquisition, use, transfer, and utilization? What will you do in terms of optimizing your assets in the different countries? How will you optimize the flows and all the process of value creation, including logistics, financial transaction, the treasuries, etc. All this will be extremely important and need to be streamlined into a process. And more than ever, processes will be extremely important in those times of uncertainty, not only for execution, but probably also to make sure that the deal will take place and to make the management and decision-making team more comfortable about going into that deal when you start talking with managers and decision makers and saying that they should look at the medium term or long term, and that there will be nothing really happening in short term, it's always a little bit more difficult for taking decision than saying you will have your return in 2 or 3 years. Obviously, the economical situation requires us to now look into more medium terms, long terms, which for me is something that I've always done, looking especially into strategic intent, seeing on long term what would this acquisition do. And I think we have a huge role to help our decision makers, our managers, directors, and our clients to understand and take decision based on this approach, and making sure that they have the tools to execute. Well, thank you very much, and I hope you will have an excellent and enjoyable conclave at MergerWare. That I would like to thanks again for having given me this opportunity to exchange with you. Thank you.